Folks that are here.
Yeah, we're all right, everybody, I'd like to call to order the work session for Thursday, June 2nd. We have one very exciting item on the agenda tonight for presentation and discussion, which is the Chesapeake Avenue Streetscape Conceptual Study. I'm going to let John kind of do a little bit of background, and then we have two gentlemen here from the company CPH that put together the design. But John, we'll start with kind of you providing a backdrop, and then we'll introduce Nick and Joshua.
All right. CPH has been under contract with the town since March to do a conceptual study evaluation of improvements to the Chesapeake Avenue corridor from 37th Street. Basically, it's a follow-up of some of the recommendations in the CPAC report. We have from CPH here then Josh Bryan, who's been our frontrunner and he's the manager, and the right-hand man, Nick General. Louisiana, right? And, all the way. We've met with Josh and his team, mayor and staff, probably three times, and had some email correspondence. So, and we've helped them assimilate some of their recommendations into a format for the town to be able to use. So their work is at a point now where they're supposed to bring us the final draft report and make a presentation to council. And after their presentation, there will be an opportunity to dialogue with them for any questions you have or any additional support you think we need for this. So the whole purpose of getting this conceptual design done is to establish what the possibilities are, where would they be located, about how much they would cost, and so the council could make future decisions, decide to implement any of the recommendations. When the decision is made to implement, we would have to find funding, and we would have to commence with detailed engineering designs so that these things could be given to a contractor, we could get permits. So the information that they have developed is what it is. It's conceptual. You couldn't give it to someone to go build. There's more engineering and detailed analysis we would need in order to be able to let the dirt fly, so to speak.
Exactly. And tonight is our opportunity to ask questions about what you put together, make comments, that kind of thing. Maybe talk a little bit about what the general next steps will be.
And what we'll do is anything that comes out of tonight's meeting, we'll work with CPH to get that incorporated into a final document that will be available to council and staff and decision makers on any path forward and any of the recommendations in the report.
Excellent. All right. Thanks.
Okay. Without further ado, I'll turn it over to Josh.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. John, for that introduction. Yes, so I'll just start off with explaining kind of the overall big picture of what we kind of came up with. Our goal was to create a corridor space, and we're specifically looking at the section of Chesapeake Avenue between 1st Street and 7th Street. So that's kind of what we focus this study on. The idea is to, as you know right now, there's not really anything different about this stretch of roadway. There hasn't been a lot of attention given to this particular section. But the idea is to create an inviting space to create a corridor effect and to encourage pedestrian activity and let drivers know that they're entering, a separate town space. So what you can see here, hopefully you can see it. This is from left to right, top to bottom. We're starting at First Street, and it basically goes all the way to 7th Street. That's what we're looking at here. And what we're proposing is there's existing parallel parking spaces along these roadways, you're aware, and we're proposing to interrupt those spaces with landscape islands that would extend out and basically be similar width to what the parallel parking spaces are. And so each of those.
Would a pointer be helpful?
Yeah, I think so.
Actually, that's a red
Oh,
thing in the
Does that
middle.
want to work?
It does work. We just tried it.
Oh, there it is, okay. All right, much better. Okay. So that's what you're looking at here. None of these, all these green trees are what's being proposed in the concept. So that gives you an idea of the spacing and how this would be laid out. And so each one of these landscape islands would have ground cover and they would have an understory tree. And so the tree gives a vertical framing element along the corridor. And as you would enter this stretch of roadway, it has the effect of causing the cars to slow down. And it also presents a continuity throughout the whole corridor. So that's the main idea. And we specifically looked at, there's parking counts on each one of these that shows that we tried to preserve as many of the existing parallel parking spaces as possible in order not to reduce your parking capacity.
When you're typically looking at these types of redevelopment streetscape projects, there's multiple ways to treat it. So we look at different things that might be beneficial to you. There's a complete street element, which usually includes, bikes and pedestrians and cars kind of all being in harmony. But also, if you're looking at creating a cultural and historical corridor, you guys have future plans, kind of setting that groundwork now with this project. So those things come to fruition, all kind of tie them together and really creates that zone, for people to be at. So things we looked at, just so we can explain that to you before we get into the details of the concept, or do you want to get rid of parking? Well, the issue, and as I was mentioning earlier, is where do people go to park? So we cannot do that. We can if we wanted to actually go that route, but you're going to have to find alternative parking lots or parking garage or something like that. Otherwise, you're going to have this place that people are going to drive through slowly, but they're just going to drive through. They won't have a place to stop. So then, we looked at, do you take off part of the parking on one side, but then you lose a lot of parking space that way as well. Then the other thing we looked at, obviously, was this thing where you're actually taking certain parking, we're restriping some of those parking as well. So that's how you're getting as many parking spaces. There's different widths, you can do parallel parking. So there's two different widths that we've meshed in together here. And then we've added parallel parking in certain areas that you didn't have it. So that's what I think we're moving with 5 total parking spaces with this particular concept. But then what you're doing is you're just creating a concrete, bulb out landscape island, putting it down, and then putting soil and planting with it into there. And then the idea is to have it separated, as far as our concept goes so far, having it separated so you still maintain your stormwater drainage. Kind of like you did on, what was it, Bayview? Bay Avenue. Kind of like you did there, to maintain that drainage, which obviously costs a lot less. Because then otherwise, the other things we would have to look at as far as during the actual detailed engineering design, if you need to update the stormwater system and then put new pipes in and trenches and all that stuff, that would obviously increase your cost. So that's kind of where we found the balance between kind of those two things. We're trying to find a balance between those two things.
And we tried to propose really practical elements, so you're not completely redoing the entire roadway system, the entire right-of-way. That really wouldn't be practical. I don't think that's really what the goal was here. So, for instance, we're proposing understory trees because you've got the overhead utility lines on the east side of the roadway. So it would be practical to put tall trees on there because you got conflicts. So we tried to keep those in mind. So that's kind of gone through all of our recommendations as an element of practicality.
So going kind of into this design, what we've really done here in this section, I don't know if you can see the mouse, but is taking out those first couple of parallel spaces on the right-hand side, and then on the left-hand side by Neptune is taking out that handicap parallel space, moving that further back. But that would allow you kind of an entry, kind of alleyway of trees, and with a gateway feature possibility, because then you're extending that sidewalk and concrete out. That may be a place where we definitely have to put a little trench in, just so the water can still get through and leak concrete to the existing system. But then what we looked at was here, a lot of people park there going straight in right now. And so, we thought if possibility, we work with that property owner, restripe it to where they pull in. It's also safer movement for them to pull out of that parking lot. But that also gives you another bulb out here, and then gives you those parallel spots, and then of course, framing in the rest of the driveways basically with the landscape islands. It's kind of that theory that we've got kind of so far. And then coming down, we'll talk about this a little bit later, as we get through the presentation, but, working with you guys, the property owners, figuring out, what such areas, as you go through that design, can you limit some of the access points? As long as, like, for instance, this is the North Beach Fast Stop, as long as they can have their turning movements and they can still have the semis go through, that's a lot of what we do with a lot of our redevelopment projects, is looking at that kind of access management, because that beautifies it in itself, because you're adding trees, you're adding bushes in a longer stretch of area that's now just an existing driveway. That's, for a long stretch of time.
Basically, this whole corner right here, there's no green space at all. It's just a vast expanse of concrete.
That's the fast stop corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in addition to that, of course, we looked at the intersection improvements and crosswalk improvements. One thing we've done in some of our other projects are also add flashing beacons for, that are manually activated by pedestrians, so it causes traffic to stop. That's something we can look at with DOT to see if they would allow that on the road, but, definitely accenting those areas, like if you look at this area right here, really drawing attention to that, an area with trees on both sides, and really making sure people know this is an area that people are crossing. Also, there's an opportunity maybe to raise it as a speed table.
So that's the church, just so we, the church
Yeah.
crossing there.
Yeah, and there's another one here by your town hall. We would, look at doing the same thing there, like as you see, kind of identifying it with more trees and then possibly raising it with brick, kind of making sure people know, slow down.
That's the senior center, right?
Yeah.
You guys can just kind of highlight what the,
Yeah.
so people know.
Yeah. And so this is the town hall right here. And then, so just continuing down, it's just those same kind of theories and practices of adding in curbs, adding in landscaping. It really lowers your costs and the amount you're gonna put there. And of course, we would recommend repaving the whole road, doing a resurfacing project at the same time. So kind of refreshes everything at the same time.
And so it's scalable, just to,
Yes.
I guess we can let you guys go through it, then we can ask all our questions. But
Yeah, we definitely ask the wedding. It is definitely scalable. You can just basically take out more parallel parking if you decided later on you ended up, you found a spot that you can do a parking lot or garage. You want to take out 20 more parking spaces, it's definitely very scalable. It's also
Annual parking in there. Or could you do annual parking?
You probably couldn't, just with the right of way width you have, because it's going to be wider, you'd have to be at one lane to be able to do that, theoretically.
There's not enough width.
Yeah, because your car goes down like this, because of parallel parking, you would need like this much, for them to pull in and pull out of an angled spot. So it increases the width you need for the parking space alone.
And the trees that you guys picked, I noticed you, Great Marls and a couple others, did you consider, the cars and being able to see the visibility, turning and things like that for the style of tree that you suggested?
Yes, ma'am. What we did was we looked at two things, was the area that you're in, and we looked at DOT's requirements for this particular road. So these are actually DOT approved plant materials for this particular road, or what we used as a basis. And then, of course, what we've used on other streetscape projects. So the sight lines are not an issue with these.
And you would look at each individual island and you would assess the scenario
Yeah.
for each one. If it's on a corner, and there's maybe a certain tree that you wouldn't use in a certain spot, or you just, there's ways to calculate site
Yeah,
angle.
and the same thing for bushes and underscore, all that stuff, because that's why we provided more than just one tree and more than just one bush, because you need to have that flexibility. Because that calculation gets done during the engineering design phase. So, part of that obviously is, when you spend this kind of money on doing something, you want to make sure people know that they've arrived someplace special. They come to North Beach. And look at this place, you gotta stop, take notice, and so we thought that an opportunity was really here. We're gonna kind of have a gateway, signage there, and then we thought, you've got a little bit of constraint right of way, and you have the existing gateway sign. So these are just examples of different ways we've seen done and we've done. Stanford actually had a similar situation. They wanted a large gateway over the road, but they didn't have the right of way to do it. So we ended up doing 2 of these pillars that are shown here on each side of the road over the sidewalks to create that gateway feel. And then behind it, similar situation, adding in planting and walled out some parallel parking, converted them actually from angle parking to parallel parking to give it more width, and then we narrowed the road as well. So we thought, if we took that, to the next level, to have the 2 locations that you could possibly have with your signage, if you did something like this. This is about 8 feet tall, proportionate-wise, and it kind of captures that jewel.
Just to explain, this is the existing view, and this is the proposed view. You can see the bump outs have been added with the trees and the landscaping, and here's the 2 vertical entry elements that we're illustrating as an example of a entry gateway feature.
Yeah, and based on the conversations you guys have and what you want, during that after the design phase, depending on what you want to do, but there's some great elements to each of these things. Like some of these have public art component. This actually has artwork and metal artwork on each side. So there's different ways you can also start introducing the art and that cultural corridor part throughout it as well. So, it depends on really what you want to see. So we just kind of took a basic approach to creating 2 columns, which you can really do anything with those 2 columns. Get local artists involved, in fact, to do a drawing that you then convert into a metal piece or stained glass or tile work on it. But then we thought, North Beach really starts to you see it. And then these would be like stainless steel holders that have a jewel that is lit at night. So it kind of gives you that jewel of Chesapeake, your motto, and kind of really starts framing the idea of who you guys are, creating that identity and that people can. Also, we thought these are also very good to be reusable, if you ever added it to other areas of your town. You wanted to identify other roads or the end of the road as people are coming in. It's a reusable object that really ties back in.
It's not too big or too unique.
Yeah.
They kind of replicate it.
And you can also resize it, like if the Stanford one. We actually took another one in another part of town. We took that, we brought it down, and we extended the wall and created a wall system, and we kind of kept that top piece. And so you can kind of tie those things in as well.
But you think it's feasible to have one on the Neptune side? As long as it's not too big, you think that would actually fit?
Not that wrong, but I told Josh out and I told him about the amount of people that were there on the weekend, the crowds and all. And that's where, I think we looked at it and made it still be important to have a bump out and that's extending.
Yeah, and that's,
If we give Neptune more room relative, but it goes, that bump out there will be bigger enough without that.
Oh, so the pillar would be.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
see right here is where we're
Yeah, it's part of the bump
This is
out.
Neptune, so this would be your additional bump out
this,
right here. So we're not taking away their space. And same thing for here, we're actually just, it's on the edge of where that pavement is now because you have that bump out continue. You can kind of put it even further back if you wanted. But, because it gives you that frame entry, you get a gateway that way.
this is about the existing limit right now, and then this black line represents the bump out space you're creating the space for it.
And it makes it a little more prominent.
Yeah.
Speed control also, because
Yeah.
slow them down, making that, come out more, so people can force them to slow
Yes.
down.
That's typically, there's different traffic calming, obviously, items that you can do. There's speed bumps, there's chicanes, which are basically bump outs every so often on each side, and people kind of have to go that way, or even narrow roads, or add landscaping, because essentially what it does is it makes people feel closed in, so that they have to drive slower. So that's really what the effect of what this road or this improvement will do, it makes people drive slower. Another thing, we were asked to look at banner systems, there's a multitude of them, here's a couple pictures, and then, you guys had this part of, another, banner study you guys kind of did. But, here's just some different banners as well, and here's the concept of what we came to, we put in other places, and we thought would be nice here as well, because it has it's usually about 8 feet as well, and what's nice about it is we have pedestrian lighting to it component. So it really draws that into a pedestrian scale corridor. It's more friendly, because your other lights are higher, they're highway lighting. You start bringing it down to that pedestrian level for the nighttime, or people walking around, for night events that you may have, if you're having any kind of festival or anything tonight or chance. The other thing, we thought if you add these, they might be a consideration if you do electricity, these poles can come with plugs, underneath on the bottom of them. So you can actually have tents or something set up on the sidewalk. You won't have to run wires everywhere, or generators. It kind of offsets that cost. You can sell the power possibly to people who rent those tents. If you're starting to have art festivals or art walks, because that's a lot of what our clients end up doing when they do these kinds of projects. We talked about the plant material. It's just a preliminary selection we kind of did, like I said, as part of the study, just really looking at what's available here, what's correct for the DOT, and what will work within the sidelines to give you just and what will look pretty, on the road, and of course maintenance-wise won't be a hassle to you as well.
Did you consider just being by the Chesapeake and kind of things that plans that tie in with being on the Chesapeake Bay and sort of the
Yeah, and
type of plants we have in the garden in the park?
Yeah, and these are just kind of examples of the size and the shape. We're at such a conceptual level that, we can easily just swap out. Once you really get into the design of the actual, landscape on. So these are examples, but they can easily be, interchanged with, if you have a particular preference, that can be easily swapped out.
And Jim, who's our landscape architect, who did the park with us as well, is the one who picked these plants, and so he knows that park well, and he knows the plant material well. Believe it, we started with like 20 trees on it. We can't show them 20 trees, so we need to start cutting it down. And so, we've got definitely like 50 more we can show you in trees. We've got probably another 20 shrubs and bushes we can show you, and flower material. And then beyond that, you can always go back and get you more, so that's not an issue at all. And then, he took that next step. This is actually from Jim, and he took that next step of showing you, okay, you have a landscape, how he would possibly potentially, build that landscape. So, for instance, along this stretch, we have the 2 trees, have the shepherd laurel and the drift rose, and kind of looking back at that plant material, the colorfulness and how it kind of goes together. Here's the drift rose. And then you have your tree options here. So any of those trees, and then with that drift rose and the sheep floral. The other thing we kind of looked at, this is kind of a little bit out of our scope, obviously, because we were asked just to look at Chesapeake Avenue, and what we thought was, okay, as you're looking at that, there's 2 different elements that we saw were a benefit to possibly investigating further as you guys get into the details, was beautifying the park there as well. With simple treatments, not anything extravagant, but, adding maybe a little canopy or a little sitting area for parents that's lit, or even on the outside, you have a concrete pad. And I understand there's, things as far as issues that possibly could exist with vagrants or anything like that, but, with proper lighting, hopefully it helps, stem that issue. But also just decorative fencing, kind of tying back in to a cultural, artistic corridor. Those things are quick fixes that kind of just brighten the area. you know, people want to bring their children to that park from other areas, you know, parks can become a focal point for people to come to a city just because of the park. So you have a beautiful piece of land there. I mean, it's, you know, and we understand you might be moving it possibly in the future, is what I understand, but. No? Okay. I thought that was what we. Okay, my bad.
I don't know about that.
Probably across the street when it changed.
Oh, my bad. I thought I heard that somewhere. I apologize. But, you know, there's also, being playing equipment that you can add. For instance, we just did one for Fort Myers area where we did like a pirate ship playground. You know, and you have enough land to add another, you know, playground equipment, something that has to do with maybe beach or has to do with the water, you know, those kind of things. So just things that you can look at. These are all things that usually you can get a good grant for, you know, playground grants, shade grants, those kind of things. You can get grants for those types of
It
things.
would just be kind of an extension
Yeah.
to the whole corridor idea. You would just, it's attached to it, it would become a part of it. It's just an opportunity that we saw.
Another color, thing on the color.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's enticing, you know, people, they want to bring their kids to a little park and stay and then, you know, go.
And here's just, here's an illustration of basically what we've been talking about. This is an elevation view. So this was if you were to cut the street in half. Here you can see, this is an example of one of the bump outs. This would be one of the bump out landscape islands. You can see the understory tree, you can see the ground cover. And then here you can see how the existing parallel parking spaces are maintained. And then just to clarify that there would be landscape islands and parallel parking on both sides, we showed this other example here. But you can, that gives you an idea if you were standing on the street looking down, how it would be different. And then this is to illustrate, so this is the existing view of the roadway, and here it is with, you know, these are the bump outs we've been talking about. We're just trying to illustrate, you know, the ideas.
Can you do the before and after again?
We made it happen that quick.
It's easy to maintain down there like that.
Before.
And we use the trees and the shrubs there, you know, pictures that are used in Photoshop are actually the trees that some of the trees and bushes that we spec on, which is just to give you an idea.
So earlier you said 5 parking spaces would go away.
Total, over the whole.
And that's the whole, that's all of
Start to
Chesapeake.
finish, yes. From the area that we studied, yeah. it would be
How many total
5
bump
overall.
outs are there?
Did not count that. Did you count that?
At least 5, I'm just curious.
I think go back.
We could,
I think it's close to 15.
No,
we can look into it.
yeah, you can just let us.
But,
So then, of course, going back into the sense of arrival, to be defined for it, the other thing we looked at, you have that area that has the existing sign. So possibly looking at creating a linear park. We have 2 different little concepts, just concepts that we threw together, you know, with like a half wall that says Jewel of Chesapeake or whatever you'd like to put on that wall, kind of really frame it in. And then creating a sitting space, you know, behind the wall. And then turning it into kind of a sculpture garden or something like that where, you know, you've got a lot of opportunities there. Same thing on this side, whether you do like a half moon wall, you know, pergola with seating underneath, some nice landscaping, and then adding in, you know, either a sculpture garden or something to that effect to really start highlighting that cultural corridor. You know, you want people to be there and take photos with the things that are there, really, you know, advertise your town. That's kind of how you kind of do those kind of things. People, you know, they post about it, they share it, they tell people you gotta go see this, you get local artists involved. So those are just a couple of options, you know, with another little sitting area here.
So is that, just to be, clear, that seating area, is that on the side of Chesapeake, like along where those people's fences?
Behind the existing sign. Like a first.
Right behind the deli.
The church one is on top. We have where the sign is now, we have a 30-foot by 40-foot or so easement. And then that the grassy area, as you go north of that, the grass area is church property.
Right, along Chesapeake.
The mayor says that if we would, wanted that, we would explore talking to the church about expanding the easement to allow this to happen.
To put some sculptures there or seed or.
Yeah, or some plants, and that's why if you really look at like these two, we try to stay within that easement, this box here is your easement. And on this one as well, so the only thing that's outside this easement at this point would be this extra bench canopy area, and if you started putting sculptures and more plants there. But, you know, within the space, you definitely still can add trees, you can still do the wall, same thing here, you can add trees, you can still add a central sculpture item, and, you know, still have more trees and plants, and really create a sitting space and a gathering space, and even all the different that, you know, that's why we try to do it so it can become modular. You can see it again, if you don't get the extra easement, or you don't want to go to that, you can still do something there if you'd like, because you have plenty of space.
So are you saying the sign would stay the way it is, or the sign would go away, or?
We were proposing that the sign would go away, and you'd actually do like a brick wall or a wall that kind of matches the entry gateway that you were selecting, and kind of bring that down to a smaller scale, either adding a pergola behind it with some benches, or adding just some benches, some better landscaping, and some sculptures or some kind of artwork.
And the idea that it would all tie together, it would all, because here's your two vertical gateway feature elements, so this whole area would be one cohesive
Entryway.
entryway.
No, I think you guys were thinking that North Beach would be on the two corners, and maybe the tagline of the Chesapeake would be on the wall, something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what we were proposing. And you know, you could do it kind of anyway. The thing with the North Beach is really nice is kind of that even look on each corner, you know, and get that really north. It really just, as you come in, it forces you to just go down and
You
look.
probably have it both ways, right? You have it leaving town, you have North Beach,
Yeah, you
coming in.
yeah, you would put the words on the side of the colors for sure.
I'm talking staff, and, 3 meetings like John told me earlier that we had, it was like tied up, even Sunrise Garden, the type of stone wall, so then everything was down, kind of tied in, and we could
Right.
see it all flow together.
Exactly.
So we did a seam wall there, did something there, would be the same type of material, maybe possible. But that would be so, when you look at your town, everything matches, it's not all different. Something different.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, and the kinds of sculptures we have, you can sort of extend that
Right.
over there too.
And you can have, you know, you can have multiple sculptures, you can just have one maybe sculpture, yeah, there's, obviously towns have that, it becomes a drawing itself too. It really comes down to what you want, what size you want.
How would we tie this into the other two entrances?
As far as these items,
I mean, how would we make the one leading into Rose Haven itself on a platform?
At some point, it would be awesome to have the same kind of thing there.
Yeah, we talked about
Beach.
that, that's why, using modular type, we did the 2 there, you could repeat that down,
Similar color
Similar
palette.
color, similar
Similar
pattern.
materials.
at that end.
the thing with these is they're scalable. You know, the thing with these elements, all these elements are scalable, whether you do a 3-foot wall, you do an 8-foot wall, you do a 2-foot wall, you know, you just have to then start playing around with, you know, how you're dressing it up and stuff like that. And same with you use one pillar at one location just so it ties it in and then create a small wall kind of comes off of it, kind of identifying. You know, there's always a play with that. That's why we try to do things that are more scalable for you guys.
Well, Mike was just saying, I mean, thinking of, I don't know, I'll say when we get to raise the road and have that walkway, it'd be nice, maybe if that was integrated at the same time, is to have a similar entranceway sign on, coming from Rose Haven.
Easement price for her property.
Yeah, and then Jay, we can have one at Fifth. I mean, there really are 3 entrances, but
I'll give you that.
But there could be a bump out there.
And the all three to match for sure.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like in this, I was just looking at Main Street, that's the guy. Yeah, definitely make it all fit in
Oh,
that.
yeah.
That
Could you
project,
bump out or
I'll take
whatever,
care
yeah.
of it. Come on,
That would be so nice.
Take care of a lot of the problems that we have. especially on Fridays.
We need calming in our town
Yes.
traffic.
Down
And,
there.
and believe me, you'll see a big difference once you add even just a couple of them out. It's really amazing difference what happens to drivers. It's that feeling of being closed in. Right now, they don't care about hitting the car.
Yeah, it's a razor.
They're worried about trees scratching their cars or their, the rims and their, they start to slow down, they really do, they're afraid that it's going into the next lane, you know, because it really narrows it without narrowing it.
You know,
So,
second.
Yeah. But, this we can replicate, once we get the model down, we
Where
can
the
replicate
professional
it.
is.
I mean, it's about establishing that, for instance, we did this in San Francisco. A main street, their main street coming in, we actually had pavers, we narrowed the road, because they had a lot, you could fit almost 2 cars in a lane. So we narrowed the roads, we added the bump outs, as I said, but then what we ended up doing was, because they still have problems with people, you know, coming through, it's a road system, so we ended up going back in, putting in 3 other, you know, major roads that cut through the road as well. So it becomes a catalyst to use that same framework to repeat it, so people really, you know, they see the same thing.
Part of your
They know where
brand.
they are. Yeah, it is really.
It's very iconic theme.
Yeah. So, you know, yeah, another thing that we kind of just looked at is we were looking at this, like I said, was not part of our corridor study, but we thought this was a nice little accent piece that could possibly be looked at. Your Dairy Free's already puts tables, chairs, and plants to shut down access, turn right.
We do that.
Oh, you do that? Okay. Well, you already do that, and so you let people turn right on the Chestnut. So we, you know, and then we understand there's houses and people need access, but, no?
Yeah, check.
No,
Yeah, they come in from there.
they come in from Bay Ave. Yeah. So they still need access to the parking, they still need, I meant from coming from the First Street. But so you still need access to the parking lot, and you still need access for those residents. But, you know, you could still look at possibly, you know, whether you add canopy lights or something like that, just beautify that area to create a gathering space for special events. Whether you look at stamped concrete or any kind of special like wave pattern, you know, or something like that, just to accent that road. Yet again, if you're starting to do those kinds of, cultural things, or having an art fair there, you know, you have enough buffer between the parking lot and the road to possibly redo that buffer, and this is kind of what we're showing for that. Just taking out what's there existing, adding in the paths, the pavers, the concrete bed, on into the sidewalk, adding a smaller tree, some under, you know, brush, and then adding in like 2 benches, adding them every so often. If you see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So just adding in every so intervals. And it really kind of expands your sidewalk without really expanding your sidewalk. You're just really taking out some of those bushes.
Okay, so you're not saying do this on the road, you're saying
Yeah.
do it on the sidewalk.
Yeah, redo the
Okay,
sidewalk.
yes.
Redo the sidewalk in the buffer that you have there. You already have bushes and trees and plants there. Just redo that so you're not losing parking spaces, so you won't have to throw as much into.
It's not affecting the residents.
Yeah, and you're not affecting that's the church parking lot, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So you're not affecting the number of parking spots. Also, if you can work out a deal with the church, or if you already have one for using it for special events, then you have immediate parking, you know, right there for a special event on this road. You know, so those are the kind of things that we kind of looked at. And of course, you have this empty space right now, it's just really just plants, this kind of swale. You know, redoing that swale, regrading it, adding a pergola, overlooking the water, you know, getting another area for you to sit and enjoy, and kind of tie that whole piece in. You know, and as an offshoot of this area, you know, because you already kind of have your eye drawn there with your passing there. And this is just something we did for another project. These are, you know, market lights, so you can always string that up. And then, of course, the other thing we propose is every so often putting the same decorative flagpoles. So as Josh was saying, you know, those same elements, kind of repeating them here, just to give you that extra pop as people pass by. Another reason to slow down, stop, get out, see what's there. Yeah.
Yeah, this just, if you're improving this corridor, and this is already, you know, has a lot of attention, this seems to be a natural kind of connection point for us. It already exists, but it could be enhanced, kind of tie it. Now you have something to tie it to once you improve this. So,
I mean, we thought it was just, we've done that on other projects too, where they shut down a 2-way street to a 1-way street. And since you guys have already taken that first step of doing something like that, it really already gives you that first step of going to that next, you know, next level of really treating that road with at the same time as this one.
One of the other things we looked at that we think can have a big impact and a big benefit is, here's your existing intersection crosswalk, and if you use, this is stamped asphalt painted, and if you were actually to do a paver pattern, it's aesthetically very pleasing, and it makes a big difference to the area. It encourages, you can have different patterns for the pavers, you have different colors and textures. It's just one more element that would help enhance just the whole corridor.
It also is a speed and traffic calming issue because people, they know they're going over when they go down. But also what we did on here is we've actually done bump outs at most of the intersections as part of our look at the study. You can still maintain, access, people can still go back and forth because you're narrowing you have to make the turn moving a little harder, but it's still doable. They slow down as they're turning, or they slow down as they approach the intersection. The other thing that this does is that the pedestrian doesn't have to cross a wider space. We're giving pedestrian another.
It shortens the
Yeah,
distance.
the sidewalk that they're on, and so.
They can probably see better.
Yeah, and so the pedestrian is really only crossing 22 feet of the road at this point instead of what we were 28.
It was more than that, yeah, but it was probably over 30 feet.
Yeah. So now it's safer for them as well.
And it keeps people from parking too close.
Yes. Yeah.
That was
a small issue with that.
Yeah.
That was the other thing we're trying to address with this. That's why the bump out is showing going back all the way here.
And would those corners be planted into, or is it more just, okay?
Yeah.
Because that corner over there looks really bad.
Yeah. Those corners will all be planted. We have banners definitely on the intersections. Just the other thing you're identifying at intersection, you definitely put banner, poles if you decide to put those in. At each intersection or multiple corners, kind of creating like a sub-gateway, if you could say.
One thing we noticed is we ran, at least once a year, but even on Third Street, they would picture all the crosswalks of different sizes. So that itself makes it look like this kind of mismatch to where you bring in uniform. You got at least a little, look like an intersection.
Well,
The
the
Third
beginning,
Street there, one of them's, 10 feet wide, the other one's 6 feet wide, the other one's, so it looks like, when you look at it, it's kind of weird looking, it's all different, so.
that's a lot of work. I mean, the painting, you have to keep doing, the pavers for the glass.
Pictures, right?
You don't have to paint them either.
The other thing that we've had people do with these when we do this kind of improvement is have traveling art, like Victoria did on the gators, like they have these art, gators that some of the colleges do. They travel the state. So another state, Connecticut, they do it's like an ironwork, but it's, they're like this tall, like this big, but it's something that's easily put, when you have all this extra space, it's easily put like right here, the pedestrians can walk by, take pictures with it, and things. You've got to travel and visit, when you have that extra space as well.
Little art pieces that become points of interest. These lines they think.
I was thinking,
One other thing we looked at, we kind of talked about this earlier, but making these changes, this is the Neptune's parking lot that we were looking at earlier. You'd have to coordinate with the property owner. But this, by going in.
It's not their parking lot, but it's, I think that there's I believe it's a resident or
Yeah.
office.
Oh, there.
It's a parking lot that's adjacent to them.
That's the
Yeah, it's the one I was talking about, saying restriping it and adding this bump
Right.
out
Yeah.
here.
It-
So it gives them the proper in and out, but also proper parking.
It just helps to organize a little better. You're already organizing, the Chesapeake Avenue. So if you can extend that and just help, organize the vehicles a little better, that's just something we saw as an opportunity.
That way they don't have to back all the way off the road. They're back in within their own spot, their own parking area. And then of course, just as access management goes, just, whether it's narrowing driveways, or redoing some of the buffers along there, so you have some, fallbacks, but also in areas that you don't have, like you might be parallel parking here in that picture, but redoing some of that landscaping work along there, we have to do some grass strip as well. And not only this area, but other areas, kind of carry that through even when you don't have build-outs. It's a thought behind that.
If there's an opportunity for more buffering, you know, outside of just the new landscape islands, that could also be integrated. But that would be more on like a case-by-case basis, rather than the bump out's a pretty consistent pattern, so.
Sort of evaluate those areas.
Yeah, just see if there's an opportunity, if there's something that deserves more screening for whatever reason, just see if there's an opportunity to do something simple, to do that. So. And then we looked at kind of, because this is conceptual, we don't have detailed engineering design. So what we try to do is just to give you an idea of some of the things that we've been talking about. This is a breakdown for the roadway and the landscaping that we were talking about. And what we were coming to was a nice round number of 400,000. So that just gives you an idea of kind of the magnitude or the scale that you would expect for the roadway and landscape elements.
This does not include Chestnut or the park or the gateway feature at this point. It includes all the intersection improvements, it includes all the concrete curb, it includes all the planting and all that material and construction costs of all of that. So we didn't include Chestnut because, you know, we don't know if we even want to do that or what we want to do with that, whether it's favored, whether it's just standing that. We want to do like, those things can have such a high impact on cost. You know,
So
so.
just the bump outs and the planting of the bump
And
outs.
doing basically the road improvement itself.
The corridor.
Corridor.
Repaving the whole road.
We repaving, yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, from Chief to repaving.
Yeah, a million research.
Yeah, non-resurface, yeah. So, and so what we did was we basically used, just to inform you how we came up with these numbers, you know, we built a lot of projects here and the cost on per linear foot of pavement, and resurface, per linear foot of concrete, you know, how much those trees cost, how much those shrubs cost. We took a number of how much those, you know, typical plants you're gonna put in each island, and we obviously the number of islands we did, and we did a calculation based on that. So the amount of concrete we need, and the amount of pavement we need to redo this resurfacing.
How tall are those bump outs of this, are they curved?
It's not for height.
It's a curve height.
Yeah.
And does that include, there was like maybe one or two places you said where we may have to do a little bit of drainage work, does that include that?
Not this process.
Definitely change drainage pattern.
Yeah.
And that's the detailed engineering. There is some storm drains in Chesapeake Avenue, and we would have to do probably some piping in that work to accommodate.
And does not include that because we don't know, you know, where we would do that, so we run a design on it, but there's no way to know that.
Yeah, this assumes basically there's simple solutions for.
Right, nothing major.
Yeah, like you could just create a space between the bump out and existing curbs so the water can continue to go whatever.
And another project we just did, we're doing probably design on, it has some situation, we actually did the bump outs, with the curb in that space, so we actually had to do trenches and slow it back to the existing stormwater, so you didn't have to do pipes, but that trench cost still is there too, so it raises that cost, depends on what you have to do. That road was sloped perfectly where we could do that.
But that's getting.
Yeah.
About 1 inch.
That means that existing somewhere, but we figured a way we're gonna make it 4 inch wide concrete fences that can grade on top. Now, you see, you're not throwing a major upgrade, but the water still goes the same time. You just bump it out and you put a grade at the top, so you're walking on the top of it.
Usually that's
It's
what
simple
we,
stuff
you
like
know,
that.
and stuff like that, so you can still have those people here that don't.
On the intersection, when you do bump outs on the intersections,
Yes.
what is this? Does this increase the sightlines down there so a car coming out can see better than we can drive down there?
Good thing about it, the thing is that, like Mike was talking about earlier, it'll keep people from parking all the way up.
Right,
Yeah.
I see that.
I don't know why,
It's
yeah.
supposed to,
It's like 25 feet back at least.
yeah, it's supposed to, depending on, you know, where, as part of the engineering process, where we're putting those trees, you still aren't gonna put them right up the intersection. So you're back, people are pulling.
You calculate that,
Yeah,
I mean.
but people are pulling past the landscaping, and there's no cars obstructing everyone on either side, on all 4 sides, and, you know, past the streets, so if you your visibility should get better immediately.
It's a real problem on some of our streets now.
Yeah, it will do that because right now the pedestrian is back here, away from the roadway, and the radius is wider. And when you see a bigger radius, you know how fast you can take that turn. And so you've got pedestrian farther back and a wider radius. Whereas what this is doing, this is bringing the person out. They're still safe because they're protected by a curb. They're still on the sidewalk. But now, and the combination of the shorter radius, the vehicle just, you automatically slow down. You recognize that. So it's a good combination for that.
And, you know, as far as like saying those, miles and stuff, yeah, you're not having cars parked right there. So otherwise, then you can't see past the car either. And so, you know, you immediately increase that. And so,
Well, I'm curious about, for the landscaping, is that, sounds like a silly question maybe, but how are they watered? Do you guys bill in for that, or what's the, you know, the watering of the plants? Or is that manual?
That's a very important question.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
That-
I don't know, if you didn't mention it, so.
That,
typically, we've done two or three different ways where you try to put more drought tolerant plants for, you know, drip irrigation or irrigation. It has to be,
it would have to do with like the plants or like.
yeah,
Yeah, oh, yeah, Bay, there's the little sprinklers.
yeah.
What's that?
On Bay Avenue, there's the sprinklers.
On the flower bed.
Yeah.
So you'd have to do some kind of irrigation.
One thing is about trees and shrubs, I mean, it's not
They don't,
a requirement.
Yeah.
They don't require as much, once they get established or whatever, in
Right.
like first year or two, they have to be pretty.
Because the other thing people have done, especially on highway type streetscaping, is they'll have water trucks watering these things every so often until they get established, and then, you know, like I said, they're drought tolerant type of plant, but they'll survive with natural rain and natural.
because your pricing doesn't include any kind of irrigation.
Irrigation, that would be a decision you would make up front. If you want to avoid irrigation, then that would really steer you towards
Different kind of plants.
excellent type of plants. If you really want these other plants, then you consider, you know, where to do it and irrigation.
How much commitment do we?
You can break it out, the entrance way, you might want something nice and shrubs, so you have irrigation maybe there, but
Yeah.
put a pump out for the trees, which wouldn't take as much work, you could
Right.
stick it there.
If you want extra flowers.
If you have a way of watering,
Yeah.
you don't.
Yeah. We got a full tank, it's like 350 gallon tank plus one good thing, on Chesapeake Avenue, that is, well, we'll get a power line in front of it.
Good.
We're talking about, you know, 6 blocks.
Right.
So it's.
Right.
That's not like 2 miles, right?
It would be manageable.
Let's say you count the trees, it might only be 20 trees, you know, 15 bump outs, whatever, couple trees in front of it, so it's not like.
Yeah.
And it could be a supplementary thing if you just go through a really dry period. You know, so.
And then Prince Road, because it's the rainy season, no Route 4 there, and they pick up the drought tolerant, and highway doesn't they actually out to the go. Last year, they pretty dry year, something after.
Yeah, there's definitely ways to do that. That was the end of our presentation, so do you have any more questions?
Yeah, I mean, we've been kind of asking as we've been going, but now we can officially open it up for questions or comments from council. And I know I've got. I was curious on the banner poles. I know in the report you guys talked about if we could get control of the poles, we could, you know, put things on the existing ones, but I didn't see anything in there. I think we have to assume that's not going to happen, and I was curious what your recommendation
We
was.
decided to steer away from really pursuing that particular option, just because
Right.
it's complicated,
It's not really
it's an extra third party.
feasible.
Your real goal is to get the banners. So
Right.
it kind of adds an extra element of complication to it. So our final recommendation was to go with the individual banners.
And we put a range in that study, 1,500 to 5,000, typically we're looking at depending on the material you're putting in, are you wanting a light, or, you know, what kind of structure, what height, and how you're installing it, that kind of thing, so why we put that range in. we still get some even, like, you know, $400,000, we just don't, oh.
I guess my question was, there's a lot of busyness down there with the wires and the existing poles. I didn't see a recommendation about how many you would suggest and where they would go. Like, would they go with the flower, with the bump outs? I didn't see sort of a recommendation about that.
We typically, you know, Stephanie typically does part of the final design, but we would recommend typically at least at the intersections, and then every so often, like every couple of landscape islands, because you don't want to overcrowd it either.
Right.
And then the idea though, at the end of the day, is to pull people's eyes down from those, like, you know, because underground utilities is obviously out of question. It's expensive, you don't have the area to do it. So it's really creating that view scale of, okay, well, they're not looking up, they're looking down, they're looking at what's there, they're paying more attention to that. And that's what, you know, why we, those landscape islands are doing. So it's really like, when you, actually, this one, so like this one,
Yeah.
you know, we kind of try to do that here, where you kind of, you have that view scale, you know, and you can see them, but they're not so many that they're overcrowding your eyes. And so that will come back down to where you actually place those bump outs, you want some more parking back, you know, you take out some bump outs, so then you do like a calculation on where you want them, or spread out a certain number of feet.
Is that something, that would be a request that I would have in the final report, if that's doable? Is it based on the number of bump outs that you guys have suggested, that you give us a recommendation on how many and where those poles would go? Just so that we have sort of a formula, you know? That would be really helpful. Right.
We talked too about the poles and the bump outs, because with the banners being whatever height you want within the sidewalk, and the current poles is right away, you know, travel.
Exactly, where they would go and how many there would be, you know?
Yeah, we could definitely, you know, take that, land view and put little dots where we would propose, and then you could show us down.
Right.
In the sidewalks.
No,
No.
this is the location
Yeah.
where they would be,
Like in the actual plan.
in the plan.
Right, that's what, yeah, because I was thinking, yeah, just the tree block it or whatever, but yeah, like how you, something like,
Yeah,
Like
right
here,
there.
you can see,
You put it, the boxes where we're gonna have the ground.
the
Yes.
shrubs,
Yeah.
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 so that's where,
There's an access to tree as well, and,
Right.
you know, and yet again, if you go to that from the lighting, one, you know, kind of goes that pedestrian lighting along the way as well.
Yes. You guys have any questions? Well, and I'm curious too, I mean, I know, Joanne, I think you've, looking at you for the dollars, did you do some preliminary looking at grants? Did I hear that? Had you done?
Well, when we did some of the streetscape with our black signage for the businesses, we got that through planning later. That's what I was thinking, we should try again for the streetscape.
How much was that? How much money? It's not like it's about 400,000, right?
I think the max that they do is like 250. So, I mean, it's competition, so the presentation might help get us there.
Yeah, that's nice.
We went to a thing, this is Public Works, and not too long ago, and I think they, I might be wrong, but I think State Highway, or something, they're coming out with more transportation street, big type grant now, like that's a big thing that's coming out, and you don't have to,
Yeah,
You guys know.
usually what you know, we can approach DOT and see the location on off there, they do those for street projects, you know, of course, you already assume, you know, get maintenance of the section anyway, so, you know, that's a trade-off they don't want to pay for it. So that's kind of what we have to talk to them about, of what they're wanting to put in. The other thing we've looked at is, Kaboom, like if you did any playground equipment or anything like that, and then the American Dermatology Association has grants for shade structures, so if you're gonna have shade structures, or even, you did that for, the, like even that, entry park area, so you want, you know, pergola, you know, or a different kind of shade structure that, you know, we can apply for a grant there. They're not high grants on that, Kaboom will actually pay for playground equipment.
Right, we've done it before, right?
But, the American Dermatology, I think we give you $10,000 per shade structure per grant that you apply for, so, you know, not the total apply for, but, you know, still extra money.
So, we could put together a proposal with you to get grant funding opportunities together, where you actually apply for the monies
Definitely helps.
to help to achieve the goals. I mean, I can help with the management overall, but the actual applications seem numerous and a little more technical. So if we have them involved, that would be helpful.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And
You
a
guys
lot
do
of
like to
these,
do it.
like, bigger companies who, like landscape grants, and that type of thing. They're small, they're like, you know, $10,000 each, but you can afford them, they add up quick, you know, so Lowe's does one, Home Depot does one, Walmart does one, Build-A-Bear does one.
Do you have like a list of, I mean, you're just ticking off all these things, do you guys set us a list of some potential?
I mean, you can send a list, but again,
No, I know, but be
I'm
curious.
only one person.
I know. Be curious just to see.
Yeah, we'll send it to you that way.
I think one of the things we've been out on the too, is maybe stuff like that.
We have this, we have a subscription to this grant finder thing. It's actually, we saw them in the mill, that's where we interested in driving, and that's where we found a lot more grants from. So we can update it, we can search it, send you, you know, all the ones, and then you can look at them if you're interested, we'll definitely help you.
We had a lot of experience with that.
I know you have to prioritize and really qualify them, to see what's worth going after.
He's saying that they have a lot of experience, they can send me the list, but what I'm saying to you is moving forward, so I'm clear, is that we get them, just like we did with the Living Shoreline, that was a very technical grant, and it still is, even in Monica, that in order to achieve a project of this scale, like you're talking about, without hindering the taxpayers, they would be helpful in achieving those applications.
Actually helping to submit it. We would probably have to be the applicant, like on the,
Yes.
the applicant, but yeah.
Definitely help, and, you know,
Like whatever the requirements are, we can put it together.
Because we just don't have, we don't have it yet, I'm
Right,
sorry.
the man, yeah, this
We
is
don't.
the human capacity.
But we want this,
Oh, yeah, no, we want this.
or something
Yeah.
similar, to this,
Yeah.
or we don't want to pay out of pocket.
Right, exactly.
That's what the mayor said, it's that, it's a council, does anybody have any like direction or like what they saw so far? Any particular thing they don't like or whatever, so they can kind of prioritize.
I mean, I would say, yeah, maybe we can each sort of take, I mean, if like, if we were to say, what would be our first couple things? I mean, I think the bump outs, the entryway sign, and I throw the banners in there. I think those three things kind of really go together. Those would be my first priorities. And I like the other ideas too, but, you know, it's a lot to go after. So could do one big grant to go after it all, but I don't know, others are, I think that would make the hugest impact, would be the bump outs.
Just,
and the-
if I understood it correctly, just the streetscape, if you divorce Callis Park and basically it's just a.
And the signage.
and the gateway sign.
They're not in that price, right?
No,
No,
just the roadway improvement.
Well, that's what, I think that's what
Well, that's what- yeah.
I'm saying, and the sign's not in there.
Okay, the sign's not in there, okay.
And neither is that linear park item.
It's just the bump
Just
outs.
the bump outs,
and the
the road, and the
Okay,
repaving.
well, that's what I was gonna say, I mean, we have no idea, so if we go forward, I mean, you pretty much prioritize that thing. What I'm looking at is more the bump outs and the planning and whatnot. I can do it out of banners and everything. But, you know, and we have to divorce that from, you know, that other, the park and Chestnut and everything from that. So, I mean, you know, right now we're looking for $40,000 just for the bump outs and the lighting, you know, everything will end in that.
Yeah.
You know, signage again, you know, I think we really agree with the bump outs and all that, we ought to be out there with the signage too.
How much, can you give us a sense, like, some of the examples that you showed, how much were they?
For instance, Sanford, with the two, they're much larger, of course, the gateway signage that we did. This one right here, which went on both sides of the sidewalk, and then doing the same with the roadway for the streetscape and similar things with light poles and lights and stuff and banners. That costs us about $1.6 million in construction costs.
Wait, just for the sign?
No, no, sorry, okay, the whole job.
Sorry,
Bricklayers are not that expensive.
All
That
those,
was all papers too.
but no, but just for the sign itself,
I can,
just the sign,
That's the
yeah.
one that's like the one that.
yeah, I can go back and look at it.
Two big ones.
Yeah, I think it's just for the
The
sign.
middle one there.
I would, I'm gonna birch bark and then probably have another.
Yeah.
It's like 500.
Yeah, come on, have the-
Streetscape, the bump outs, and all that. Streetscape plus the sign.
A couple
So
signs.
that, you know, that's your goals. I mean, like I said, we can go back and look at our bids. We can go back and look at our bids and actually put it up there.
On some of those signs.
Yeah, I mean, well, if there's one, if you like the idea, maybe show, you know, that, you can just put a number in that.
I mean, I don't know if we like that exact design. I mean, I like the thing being on both sides of the street. Whether it's, brick or kind of some other kind of feature.
Yeah,
Yeah.
material is what changes the cost.
Right. Yeah, the brick, I don't know that that really speaks to our beach brick.
I understand, but, you know, the other thing we see now is like, wood pillars that have like, kind of like a siding look to them with like, metal, like, accent pieces to it. Like attenuate. Yeah, there's so many ways to treat it, we can have to give you just a rough number based on these ideas, a couple of these ideas. You know, and then, right, it comes down to, right, you know, it comes down to the final plan on what you actually want. You know, materials and
Saying
stuff.
it was somehow garden, but started out at what, 1 point whatever, and got down to 500.
And this isn't account for any work that, you know, you guys would do. This isn't account for if they did the planting, planting yourself. You just have to come in and do the plant bed.
Right.
Over the table.
Now, sometimes garden started out, good, like 1 point, we hit what the numbers were today. And then it went down to 400,000.
Right, that we had to come up with.
There's nothing left to run to the toll.
Yeah, I mean, the total interior estimate was
Exactly.
way over.
Well, some things we got in common, you know, from electric and, yeah. But yeah, that would be helpful if you could give us.
Yeah, we can give you a rough number.
Very happy to walk over all of it.
The other thing, you know, that's a good, revenue or money generating capabilities or, you know, if you get new benches or anything like that, accent items, or having, you know, name placards, we've done that.
We've done benches.
Like, you know, if you do, like, you know, interpretive signing, you know, as far as like what those plans are, you can get some grants for those kinds of things as well. If you want, you know, education grants, as well, that's what we look at.
Yeah, sell the papers.
You know, and that's, we have those, you know, that's actually.
We've done that too.
There's a lot of repairs to pay for.
This is really helpful. I mean, I don't have any other questions from you guys. I mean,
My thing is, I would have pushed anything in Chester.
I think it's a lower priority.
I would not even spend any more energy on it.
Well, I think
So,
Yeah.
at least we have some ideas for theirs and for ours.
Right.
We do need something to do something with Chestnut Street at the intersection.
Yes.
I like that.
But the rest of it, like with the church parking lot being there, and maybe just residential housing being there, I would,
Yeah.
like, I understand at the eating area doing something.
And you're talking about on Bay, maybe where you said it's like a swale, like doing a little.
I think what Mick is saying is when you back to where Irma Daniel lives and Jesse Gallimore.
Yeah, right there, something.
Yeah, the bay side of it, we don't really need to tarp that up too much because that's, you know, a residential area.
I think the bottom part where they wanted the swings and whatnot, at the base of the parking lot, is the stormwater management for that parking lot. Like, if it was already having a foot deep of water.
Oh, anyway.
So, like, I don't know how much we can really play in that area because of that without being.
I agree, that's probably the
That
lowest.
could be
I
really
put that the lowest.
Yeah,
That's something we didn't really,
Yeah,
you know.
so like, I'm thinking of.
I understand why you guys do that, because it was in
Yeah.
the view here.
And the idea is that you could take pieces or parts, you
Yeah.
maybe you only like this part, or maybe you only like,
I'm just thinking of like,
That could also be phase three down the road.
Yeah.
That's not right.
Yeah, we could, yeah,
That's the projects
I
I
think I'll agree with that.
I think it's good on a bigger concept, the whole thing, though, and then you can put pieces in
Yeah.
later on.
Right, we can prioritize and.
And everything matches. It's, very
Why don't we see if there's any, you guys have been so patiently waiting, is anybody in
So
the
real-
audience want to comment or ask a question?
Yeah, Jim Stats, as I told the council before, I've got 25 years of land planning in Prince George's County, and so I'm familiar with urban design and streetscapes and everything. Within the limits of your study, I like what you've done, okay? However, there are a couple of things that sort of surprised me. One, you didn't include the sidewalks, okay? And I think that's a very important thing if you're talking about a streetscape, is to include the pedestrian portion of it. Because that's going to be people are going to park, but most of the traffic is going to be on foot. Because you see how many parking spaces there are. Okay. And then the other thing that strikes me is that this is a daytime only study. There's nothing about lighting. And if we're talking about a library, a cultural arts center, and a hotel, you're talking about movement along that street in the hours where it's dark. And so lighting is an essential component of this streetscape. Okay. And you can see it actually today, and if you can go to the picture in which you had a concept study, not this, back. Notice on the left there is a street lamp right in the sidewalk, okay? And I've noticed that actually, there's one outside the building here. One of the questions I would come up is there a minimum sidewalk width for ADA? And is that lamppost a potential obstruction?
What are the telephone poles going down?
Well, telephone poles are a different matter because you're talking about utility company here.
Yeah, but you can't get a wheelchair down there.
Correct, but the thing is that the street lamp is something that the town has installed.
No,
No.
those belong to BG&E.
They belong to BG&E?
Yes, sir.
The only ones we own, Jim, are in the flower beds along there.
Well, then that's something that should be looked at, is to, once again, compelling BGE to make our sidewalks safe and to meet ADA.
I think if like you were to look at the banner post location, that could be something where, okay, if you do go with the lit post, that, okay, we can solve that problem. And maybe ABGE, we're fixing this problem by getting the sidewalk.
But you still have to have,
And so switch over to lights for us, and that's also just like.
And they would
If
let
you're
us
gonna
do
go
that.
through that, you should be doing your own lights.
Yeah.
and, so that's, you know, to that point, that's why we kind of looked at, we did look at it as a nighttime study type of thing too, because that's why we recommended light posts within those lamp beds as part of that banner system. So you have that lighting, and then also that's why we would recommend having them with plugs, because you can also for special events add additional lighting and also hang.
But now that I know that BGE has got those light poles,
Yes.
this is the opportunity for the town to move light poles into property that they own and cover over where the BGE pole is existing.
And
We could do that, right, if we get,
Yeah, if we can eliminate and get something more aesthetically consistent.
and not in the middle of this.
And ADA compliance would certainly help any grant, correcting situations that are currently out of compliance.
and we did, the first thing we looked at was
that was
actually
the
the
first thing we
sidewalk.
looked at.
But to keep, ideally you would have 8-foot sidewalks, but the corridor is restricted, and that basically turn this into a complete overhaul of the entire section. You'll probably lose your parallel parking. So it was just, we were trying to enhance the corridor, but at the same time not completely start from scratch with the whole thing. So it was, I agree it's not ideal, but it was just,
Yeah,
we were trying to limit our
Right.
scope to something.
And we didn't necessarily ask you to look at the sidewalks.
yeah, and, you know, to that point, when we first started, I said, you know, there are different ways to treat a streetscape. I mean, it's all practical planning knowledge, you know, as far as, you know, you're extending the sidewalks, you get rid of parallel parking, do you do parking on one side? We did look at all of that, and we did our planning of this, because that would be ideal for a bike lane with, you know, a wide cafe style sidewalk, where you can actually set your tents up on there, you know.
What you have.
Yeah, you're very limited within your right of way. And once you get like outside of that, you're gonna start having right of way acquisition costs, and those will kill you. You know, unless you're prepared to start buying land, you know, that will kill you.
Right.
You know,
And if it does start taking off, or if you do get extra parking somewhere, maybe you don't need the parallel spaces, or maybe you don't need the parallel spaces on one side of the road.
If we build a parking garage, we can look at it as another.
well, yeah, 'cause-
Then now you have all the spaces to be parallel parking.
Yeah, you can literally just take out the parking on one side, you know, add that sidewalk there, you know, add some more landscaping all the way straight down. And so this is feasible for that need. It still doesn't address the poles and the electric poles and the sidewalk, but that, you know, would have to be coordinated with the electric company on, they're willing to move it.
But if you're gonna give us, in the revised piece, how many poles based on
For
the
this
location?
part,
Yeah, so that would be helpful. All right, yeah.
I had a question about the banner, the poles you're talking about. Are you talking about putting down both sides of Chesapeake, alternating them, so that they're not alternating, but on
Yes.
both sides?
Yeah, both sides, correct, yeah.
Thank you. Back on this question of PG&E and poles, are we gonna have any restrictions, because we're talking about a state highway here.
No, we're not, no.
We're not on a state highway
We're
at
not
all.
on a state highway, no. This is a town street with a state route number on it.
Well, I've heard the argument that we can't do things over on 7th Street because it's a state highway and it wouldn't
That's
allow
not
it.
true. Again, it is a town street, town street with a state route number on it.
So it's under our authority to
It
do
is a town street, yes.
We took it over when they did all the work and upgrades and sidewalks originally, and that's when the town took over the street from Neptune's all the way out to past 9th Bay Avenue.
Okay, but I guess more important, and you know, I think, Council, you guys all know, I talk about cost benefit. And I wonder if the cost that we're gonna put in here, or we costed to put in here, what's going to be the benefit to town? And I don't know, in your experiences, doing this type of upgrade, what will it create? New businesses, will it create, in any of your studies, can you answer
Yeah, I mean,
what it would bring?
We've taken these all, we've done at least 12 within the last 5 years of these exact type of projects for redevelopment, specifically community redevelopment agencies, which are set up specifically to increase economic growth.
Right.
And in every single case, we've taken it from the planning stage all the way through construction. Every single one has been built. And our understanding of what's happened, because we still visit these cities, we work with them on other projects, you know, it has definitely had a positive impact, because you're providing people a place to go. People that also come through here already will stay a little bit longer. You'll get other quality businesses that want to be here for a particular level of clientele, or they want those amenities. So it's easier for those, you know, so the cost benefit is, you know, you own a home and you have nothing on there except the home, and it's sand everywhere. And the perception is you have a home next to it, and it's, you know, got better landscaping, and it's got better, you know, curb appeal, it's painted a little nicer, refreshed. People are gonna tend to buy that at a higher price than the other one. So it's that same cost benefit. You have people wanting to rent at a higher rate, or at least rent in a particular area, because they want to be there, and they want their customers to be there, or their customers already want to be there. And so you have to, it's kind of that cart and horse situation. It's hard to see it, but it does end up benefiting in the long run.
Can you tell me the towns or cities that you're mentioning here?
Yeah, we've done 5 in Sanford, we've done one for New Smyrna Beach, Panama City, we've done one for Unionville in Connecticut. Winter Springs, we've done about 5 different ones for them. What else have we done?
Anything in Maryland?
In Maryland, no, I don't think we have. Well, we've done some stuff for Safeway as far as some of their cafe projects and beautifying, creating public spaces we've created. So they have, yet again, their people who come to their store have a place to stay and enjoy the area. We've created parks, we've created a little bit of, pergola sitting areas, and that are beyond their scope of just doing their Safeway. We add that because it benefits them in the long run, because they want people to stay.
Similar types of enhancements. It encourages people to come there.
Yeah, but it's got, but what I'm saying is, you've got to have some type of measurement though. I mean, you can say it enhances, it brings people there, but there's got to be a quantification.
No, we got here tonight because of the heavyweight urban planners that provided the CPAP report. Recommended the town that they consider this. Developing a specific set of measurements that you can measure a cost benefit for this, that's not what we asked CPH to do. We asked CPH to give us some ideas how to implement what the heavyweight urban planners thought would benefit the town, okay?
But they have the experience, John, though,
To tie this to a measurable cost benefit, I think that would be a struggle.
But I mean, I hear what Bob's saying, there may be some kind of formula or something.
Honestly, I have to agree with him. It's hard to say on a specific dollar value, because we don't look at people's rents, we don't look at, but we can tell you that most of the places we've done it, all the places we've done it, that more businesses have come in. That's the only justifiable thing we can give you, is if they had 20 empty lots, they now have 4, type of
That's a good
situation.
indication.
And, the other indication is the quality of businesses that were there are completely different. We did a huge one for Daytona Beach, we just did a concept plan, and even just as we started doing that, more businesses have come in because they're anticipating the improvements, and so it's hard to justify in dollar value, because what is that dollar
But you
value?
look at revitalization efforts, whether it's DC, downtown Baltimore, and you see the same thing over and over. Not only is it, like you just said, better quality businesses pop up there, you see the increase in visitors. I mean, you can look at, there's so many examples.
Yeah, and you get a better quality of visitor too.
Quality, yeah.
At the end of the
When
day.
you said the magic word earlier, curb appeal. That
Exactly.
really is it. People see it and they like it and they want to be there.
And Bob, just to go back just real quick too, back to the planner's point, this whole idea, one of the recommendations was becoming, an designated arts district. You look at what we did at 3rd Street Park, people coming to visit the artworks and drawing, those types of folks, and what you guys did here ties into that bigger vision with the art, the things that you proposed at the gateways, tying all of this together. So this is a piece of that big vision that we're trying to move towards.
We did that part, it was.
Yeah, you did the park.
Yeah, and that's what I mean, you guys did the part, exactly.
Well, once again, from a sort of land planning sort of perspective, this gentleman did speak directly to improving the rents in the area. They did not speak about bringing in wonderful business. I mean, understand downtown Baltimore. I was in Baltimore in the 70s, and I've seen the difference in Baltimore. But see, the difference is that Baltimore has been a destination location for several hundred years. It's a major hub. It's a place that people naturally go to or go through because they have to. It's within the corridor between Washington, D.C. and New York. Extremely important, especially back during the Civil War, when the federal government took over Baltimore to ensure that passage would go through. North Beach, though, is not a destination community. I mean, we're not Ocean City, okay?
Well, that's changing quite a bit, actually.
Well,
Yeah.
let me continue. This would be a great project once we become some sort of a destination community. And if you look in the conclusion here, they talk about the big plan: library, cultural arts center, hotel. I would suggest that this is a wonderful plan to implement, but I wouldn't implement it until at least one of those three major items actually existed. Because you putting this in first is not going to cause or create the impetus for one of those next three to come in. I don't believe having the plan in place will help them decide whether they want to come in, and telling them a timetable, but implementing this at this cost is not going to bring in what I would call significant business.
One of the ways I'm looking at it to address, obviously I'm very concerned about the price. Very interested in where the grants are coming from. Somebody's going to get the grant, I hope we get it. It's going to be going someplace. There's a direct correlation between what we've done in this town over the years and your price of your homes going up. Direct correlation. I'm a realtor. I know in my lifetime, in 17 years in real estate, this is the first time, and I owned a big company in real estate, that I had people wanting to move here. And it's a direct correlation between the park, the paving, the sidewalk, the streetscapes. I'm 100% for this because it is a direct correlation for people to come here. And when you see two-bedroom homes going for $285, $295, it ain't because of something crazy. It's because of the quality of what's going down here now. It's the only reason. I remember days where I grew up, there was the pagans on one side and tribes on the other side. And nobody wanted to live here. Now, I have people, because I have the zip code in Zillow, I know how many leads I get a month. People want to be here. It's because of the park. It's because of the Overlook Park. It's because of all the things we're doing. It is a huge correlation to what we're doing. We need to keep moving forward. We need to keep moving forward. Do I think the hotel's going to get here one day? You know what? My son's 4. Maybe when he's my age, maybe. And it's not because of developers or anything like that. It's just I'm not in favor of the hotel. Never will be. I mean, I like B&Bs. I like the small town feel and stuff like that. The library, you know what? That's all political. I mean, that might happen. But I do know when you come down into our town, it does look a mess. No matter how many times we clean it up, no matter, but it's just stuff everywhere. And I do, if you ever go down to the beach, just talk to people. Find out where they came from. Find out why they're here. Find out why they're coming back. You will be amazed. You'll say, I used to come here 20 years ago. I would never bring my kids down here. Now, I'm walking the boardwalk at 9 o'clock at night and I love it. It's because of the beautifications we've done to this point. And I think we need to keep moving.
Yeah, I like to say you can't wait for it to happen, you have to make it happen.
But I am very conservative.